Hi guys, it's your girl here, Ada B, and welcome to the Talks with Ada B show. Okay, I just had to pause this here because I am so annoyed that after having to re-record this entire segment, I introduced it incorrectly. This is, ladies and gentlemen, Let's Talk. So excited to start the new year this way. Happy New Year's, guys. I hope that your entry into 2024 was a peaceful and joyous one, and I hope you're really looking forward to what 2024 has to bring for you. My name is Ada B. If you've never been to this channel before, I am a gospel singer and songwriter, and I am a presenter. Before I get into this video, please make sure that you hit the thumbs up, you hit that subscribe button, and that you check out the links in the description box below. You can catch up on the last 2 years of just great conversations with musicians, actors, writers, founders, so many incredible people in the UK and beyond who have come onto this show and shared their story to where they are today. Do head over to listen on whatever streaming platform of your choice, that you give us a rating and or a like. Okay, without further ado, make sure you also follow the socials at Talks with Ada B, and I'm going to get into this video. So I just want to preface this video first by saying that I'm not in any way coming on here to bash my former church or the people that I went to church with. I am still very much in contact with a lot of those people, and they're very near and dear to me. So this is in no way to condemn or to bash anyone. This is purely about being transparent. And the reason why this is about being transparent is because I was always a Christian. I grew up Christian. But as you know, when you come into the faith, growing up Christian and kind of knowing God and going to church every now and then doesn't actually mean that you have a relationship with God. So even though I was baptized at 19, I still wasn't living a Christ-led life. So it was very touch and go. But God has been faithful. He has been gracious. He has been merciful. And so in 2020, I believe, I came out, or was it 2021? No, 2020, I believe. I shared on Instagram that I'm rededicating my life to Christ, which just meant that I'm now actually publicly going to be living my life in accordance to what I say I believe. And that's really all it is. So in me sharing that, I've been sharing updates on my faith journey, which if you want to kind of find out more about, I am now uploading some of those onto YouTube as well via my music channel. So that'll be linked in the description box below if you want to follow more about that. But it is important for me to share this chapter of my journey because there are people that, based on what I've shared about my journey so far, who have inquired and want to know more about Christ and want to go to church. So me not being in a church at the moment might be a bit confusing to those people. So I just want to kind of explain why. Let's get into this video. So cool. Why I left my church. Guys, it wasn't an easy decision. I have been going to this particular church since I was the age of around 9 or 10, I believe. And I was definitely in primary school. And I am, you know, many years, older than that now. And when I look back, I cannot even believe that I've been to that church for as long as I have. And don't get me wrong, I definitely had a period, particularly in my teens, where I wasn't really going as much. I was kind of like just kind of disengaged, disinterested in church as a whole, God, and I was just doing a bunch of other stuff. But as I mentioned, at 19, I did come back to the church and I actually did give my life to Christ. I became a born again Christian. And when I tell you from that point onwards, I remember my pastor said to me at the time, paraphrasing a little bit here, that this is actually where kind of like the battle begins. Because now you are fighting against everything that you've been conditioned to believe, that your flesh is comfortable with, that the devil has, deceived you about. All your comforts are going to be confronted now that you have decided to give your life to Christ and become a born again Christian. And I thought, okay, yeah, I get it, but in theory, but I didn't understand that this was new territory. I'm in a new field, nothing like what I've experienced before. And in order for me to truly succeed in this faith walk, I am going to require 100% Jesus. There is no room for worldviews on things. There's no room for even Ada views on things. I got that right in here. How often I was applying that is now why we're going to get into why I left my church. So, just before the pandemic hits, our pastor leaves and his wife and his family. And that was a big shock for people like me because him and his wife, excellent teachers. You just felt the love of God. There's just no way you enter that place and you didn't just feel the love of God. They just wanted everything to be about Jesus and the true word of God. No filtering, no mincing of the word, no softening the blow. We're just going to tell it as it is. What was so ironic about the way that he preaches, even though he was speaking very matter of fact, his cadence, the way his tone is very like smooth. And even his wife, they're not shouty preachers or like in the name of God. And no, they just speak normally, very calmly. But what they're saying, if you're listening, is powerful stuff. And so when they left, that really kind of changed the church, and a lot of people left. Some people are going to leave anyways, because sometimes people move on, you move away, whatever. But a lot of people actually left when they left because they left. And I remember not even too long after that, my mum was like, I think we should find a new church. And I didn't realize it, but my mum was already seeing where we're at now. But I didn't. I was just like, I've just built up this consistency of going to church. I've just built up this passion and love for being in fellowship. I'm not ready to move church and start all over again because I can't guarantee in myself, I can't trust myself that I will have the same level of commitment. And if I don't like the next church we go to, does that mean I'm just not going to go to church until I find a church? Or I just wasn't ready for that. It was all just too new to me, getting into this consistency of just fellowship and worshiping and going to church on a Sunday. So I was pretty much against it. And so my mum, in that sense, I guess she kind of compromised for me because she didn't want me also to fall out of the rhythm of church. So fast forward, I get a job at the church. Now, error number one, or flag number one, shall I say, when at this point, right, I'm like, let's say, in the pandemic now, like I said, I'm building up. And as we're slowly coming back into the church life, I'm like on it. I'm like, I want to be involved in any way I can, whether it's Sunday school, teas and coffees, being on the door, any like activities, if I can volunteer. I'm just like wanting to be fully immersed into church life because I'm like, you know what's going to really help me transition from old habits and, old routines or, certain comforts is actually being around people that love God, fear him, and that are doing his works. So I want to be in those spaces around those people. And so one of the days that I'm actually teaching Sunday school and also doing the teas and refreshments, a job announcement was made that a job was opening up in the church and they were looking for 2 people because it was meant to be, a job share, part-time job, whatever. I wasn't in there. I was teaching Sunday school and then I went straight to do the refreshments. So one lady from my church came up to me about maybe 10 minutes into serving teas and coffees. And she was like, by the way, they just announced a job in there and I think you should go for it. Now, I'm very much of the belief that, what is for you won't miss you. But I'm also of the belief that the enemy will try you. Okay? Because that's just a fact. That's in the Bible. That's period. The enemy will try you. Now, the reason why I say this is because at that time, like I just said, I'm wanting to be involved in all the godly works. Okay, I don't want to do works of the flesh. I don't want to do works of man. I want to do kingdom work. You know what I mean? I want to give everything I have for the Lord. But I didn't acknowledge at the time that I'm already kind of doing a lot. I'm singing and shooting music videos and performing everywhere. And then on top of that, I just started this talk show as well. So I'm doing this as well. And I'm also serving. I am serving in the church. I am, like I said, teaching Sunday school, I'm leading up the front, I am doing the teas and coffees, and I'm volunteering for various events that are happening in the church. So I'm already doing all of these things, but a job just it made it sound a little bit more official. So I was like, you know what, God, is this from you? Is this from you? No, I asked God that question, but did I wait for an answer? No, I didn't wait for an answer. I tried to wait for an answer, but you see, this is where sometimes us as people, we can get in our own way. When the job opportunity was presented to me, my mum was present and she was like, oh, this, it sounds like a good idea, but let's pray about it. I said, yeah, let's definitely pray about it because this is like an official way to do it where I've got like dedicated time. as if my time wasn't already dedicated to the things I was already doing, but it's like dedicated time, paid time. And I thought it was just going to be an addition to the job I was already doing. Oh my gosh, guys. I felt a hesitancy because I didn't rush to apply for the job. I literally think I submitted my application. I applied and submitted my application the night before the deadline was closing, or the day of, actually, I think. Yeah, it was very near. Like there wasn't much time left to submit the application. And I said, anyways, I've prayed about it. If I still don't necessarily have like that confirmation, that peace, that conviction that says do the job. But there's still an interview to go through. So at that point, if at the interview I still don't feel that sense of conviction, then maybe I can just turn it down. It's not that big of a deal. And I had my main job, so it's not that big of a deal. I'm not relying on this for income. Fast forward, I do the interview. Didn't actually think I was going to get the job, to be honest with you, but I got it. And I was like, ooh. I remember I was out with my colleagues, actually. This is the irony. I was out with my colleagues when I got the call. We were actually going for our Christmas outing, and I got the call to say that I got the job. And I was like, okay. But I haven't gone into prayer about it, if that makes sense. I said, hey, God, is this the kind of job that you want me to do? I haven't sat down and said, God, is this the job you want me to do? I think this opportunity looks good, blah, 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 blah. No, I've just said, hey, God, literally, as I'm saying it to you, just like, hey, God, I've got this job opportunity. Seems like a good idea. I've been praying, I've been wanting to serve you. Do you give me the go ahead? That was kind of the basis of my prayer. That was it. But I never sought advice from anyone, not even really from my mum that much. She'd heard about it, she saw that I was going for it, and I'm sure she was praying for me. But I never really went back and forth with her or with anybody else who had even done a similar job or worked in a church before. So what I failed to do was acknowledge I'm in new territory. You see, it's one thing doing the odd bits I was doing here and there every couple of months. But when you're working in the church, I needed advice from people who have worked in churches. Because one thing I came to realize as soon as I started that job is how the little devils in churches, how they can be such a bone of contention. Because remember, you're working in a spiritual place. You're not just doing your 9 to 5 job, typing away at a computer, entering data. You're doing the work of the Lord. Where there is light, everybody's attracted to it, good and bad, right? We get that in terms of society and other aspects of life. It's no different in the church. It's no different in the church. There are little devils, people that are there just for the purpose of causing destruction and distractions and confusion and trying to kill the ministry and kill the works of the Lord, who are operating. And I saw that almost as immediately as I started. And that shook me. I'm not going to lie to you, because again, mainly I'm working with people I know, people that have seen me since I was a child. So I'm not expecting this kind of behavior, but it was happening. And I was very vocal in the beginning because I was shocked. I was literally shocked. I was very much open about the fact that I didn't understand that I'm supposed to be working with fellow Christians. We're supposed to be all on one accord. We're all supposed to be on the same page. We're all supposed to have the same desire. I want this, but they're not speaking to you. They're dismissive of you. They don't take your ideas or thoughts into consideration. You're asking questions. You're being met with silence. They're not even approaching you to ask you to do things or delegate tasks to you. They're going through a third party, as if they didn't just see me on Sunday or they don't have my number. So immediately I realized you cannot internalize this, because if you internalize this, the enemy is going to do a number on you. So you need to acknowledge the fact that this is spiritual warfare. And the only way I'm going to successfully get through this is with consistent and persistent prayer, which you should be doing when you're doing church work anyways. But I didn't mean just persistent and consistent prayer with those I'm working with. I meant even in my own time, I needed to dedicate time to pray about the work I'm doing and who I'm working with. Because if I'm not careful, I'll find myself in a not so pleasant situation. So that was really hard off the bat. And unfortunately for me, I've already accepted the job, and now I'm seeking advice because I'm noticing things, and I'm now asking for advice. Now, had I asked for this advice before even applying for the job, there's 2 or 3 people who from the moment I told them I got this job, then told them I got this job, they were like, yeah, I wouldn't have told you to do that still. I would not have told you to do that. Mm-mm. I would have not told, and I'm not going to identify who those people are because I'm sure there'll be people from my church watching, and I don't want to get anybody in trouble. But there were like 2, 3 people that were just like, yeah, no, if you had told me you're applying for this job, I would have told you don't do it. But now it was getting to a point where I was struggling to do the jobs because the church job was slowly but surely taking over every free time I had. And it was becoming a little overwhelming. And the friction between the two roles was becoming so apparent. And I realized, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to make a choice. I'm going to have to make a choice. Now, in hindsight, I know what I should have done. But in that moment, remember, I wanted to serve the Lord. I wanted to work. I had all this energy, all this zeal, all this excitement. And I didn't want to give that up because you've got little devils working against you, or because you're having a bit of a rough time. There's always going to be some awkward moments in any job that you do. But if I'm being honest, and this is something I vocalized to the 2 people I decided to confide in about this, my main job, they were not Christians. In fact, they were almost on the anti-God side, if we're being honest. But they were lovely to me. They were so kind. They were so considerate and patient. There was nothing I asked that they wouldn't answer. There's nothing like I felt like in the time I was there, I flourished so much and I learned so much. And I really enjoyed working with them. They were just lovely people. I think I was the only, faith-based person there. So they had questions and I was always happy to answer them. And I always tried to share that love and joy that I have genuinely inside of me from the Lord with them, whether it's by emails, whether it's when I talk with them, work with them. And they felt that and they let me know that they really enjoyed the fact that I sent these kind of emails and I was always, cheerful and things. And they were just genuinely very kind to me, if I'm being very honest. And when it came to this choice of having to choose, I'm like, well, if I'm looking on a surface level, these people are lovely to me. And my church right now, they're not being so lovely to me, making my life quite difficult. So if I was just to choose on that basis, I would choose the other job. But then I was trying to think, let's think on a more spiritual level. I said, hey, God, I now need to make a choice. What do I do? So for 3 months, I prayed, I even fasted, and my whole family prayed and fasted with me. It became a family matter because we're like, this is crazy. I don't want to lose my career, but I also don't want to give up doing the works of the Lord. Now, I don't know why it didn't just click to me that even if I left this job, I could still continue doing the things I was doing before in the church, just not in the official capacity that I was doing it in. I don't know why it just never came to me, but at that time when I was praying, it just never came to me. And if I'm being honest, I still didn't really feel like I got an answer from God. I just felt like I went with the answer that made the most sense because it was coming to a point where I didn't have a choice but to make a decision. So now I'm like, I feel stuck. I feel cornered. And I'm like, God, I'm not getting the answer I need. So I started talking to people in the church. And naturally, there's a bias because they need the workers. They're going to tell me to stay in the church. It would take a very spiritually mature, spiritually sensitive person to say, I think you need to pray about it more, or actually stay in your main job, leave this job alone, just continue helping out here and there where you can. Ultimately, I made a choice before I really felt like I got a full-on answer from God. I just went with what kind of felt the most sense and where there was a general consensus, which was just stay in your church job. God will provide. Hey! The moment I handed in my resignation to my other job, and to be honest, the only thing I could really tell my other job was I'm underpaid, I'm overworked, which wasn't really a lie. I think they knew that, they did acknowledge that. But being that it was in the charity sector, that is kind of like, and I don't doubt for a second that they would have eventually increased my pay as time went on. But because I was just so much wanting to serve the Lord, and the general consensus now when I had sought advice at this kind of little too late stage was just stay in your church role. biggest mistake I ever made. You know, when you just get that sinking feeling like you've done something so wrong? Yeah, I repented. I I repented. I asked God to forgive me daily. Yes, I'm back. I had to hit you with the pause again because I just really wanted to make sure that I clarify this really, really carefully, because I don't want anyone to misconstrue or misinterpret what I'm saying as working in the church is an inherently bad thing. Absolutely not. I didn't make a mistake to want to do the church work. What the mistake was leaving my main job to do the church work, because actually a lot of the church work I was doing, I was already doing prior in a voluntary capacity. The only difference now was that I was being paid, and there was the social media aspect, which I do go on to explain, but I just want to make sure that that's very clear. I'm in no way saying that doing church work is bad or working in the church is bad. What I'm saying is, in this instance, for me, leaving my main job was not the right move. This is how sometimes when you're doing the wrong things as well and you're not waiting on the Lord, this is how the enemy can creep in, and because we can start experiencing self-doubt and confusion. And I was going through all of those emotions. So yes, I just wanted that to be clarified before anyone starts calling me the Antichrist. We love the Lord over here. So just wanted to make that clear. Okay, back into the video. And it's not like I couldn't have run back to get the job, but at this point I was like, you know what? I've made so many decisions at this point without waiting to actually get what feels like a solid confirmation, what feels like the peace of God in my decision. I now just have to sit still and wait. And so that is what I did. And as I did that, the things that unraveled, my word, the things that unraveled, my word. Because whatever I was experiencing in those first few months, it now was amplified because this was my main job. Oh, please no. Please no. That they were going to make sure that they tried to nib every part of my free time. I'm like, this is supposed to be a part-time job, and on top of that, it's supposed to be a job share. So why am I here 4 days a week? Why am I doing more than my part-time hours almost every single week? So I started literally fighting against it. And some weeks I would do less, some weeks I would do a little bit more to compensate. And I started doing it that way because I was like, no, I can't sing, I can't go to perform, I can't record, I can't go to events, I can't do anything. I'm literally just living and breathing the church. And it felt suffocating, if I'm being honest with you. It really did, because it felt like I've now let go of my career. And then on top of that, I can't do my talk show. I can't go and perform. I can't go and create music. I'm just in the walls of this church, Monday to Monday. Everything I'm doing in my spare time, well, not in my spare time, all my time is just going to doing this work. I'm staying up until 2 a.m. because I was, as much as well as I was doing like the activities in the church, I was also doing their social media, like Facebook, website, recreated their whole website, and, revamped the social media, created their Instagram, I'm doing flyers and all of this kind of stuff. So I'm like, all my time is just going into this thing. I have no energy, no time to edit or do anything else. And I started to feel myself just sinking. I just started feeling disengaged, disinterested. And if I'm being really honest, I started to feel like a slight resentment, because again, I'm working with people I know. These are not strangers to me. Okay, remember, I've grown up with these people. So as much as I'm trying not to internalize, you know how much music means to me. And you know how much of a struggle it was for me to even start singing. I started singing in my mid-20s. But this is something I've wanted to do since I was a child, and I haven't been able to do it because the enemy was fighting me. So now that I'm able to do it, you're not only depriving me from doing it in church, you're depriving me now from doing it outside of church, in other churches, because I have to be there every Sunday. And not only do I have to be there every Sunday, I can't even sing every Sunday, because you've got different people who have different opinions about what worship should look like. So it just felt like everything I had worked for up until this point, in terms of my ministry, was grinding to a halt. And now I've left my career and I know that I've made a mistake. I'm like, I cannot move out of panic, fear, anger, or any emotion. The only time I can move is when I feel that peace from God that says, go. Once he tells me to go, I know I can go. Every time I'll be like, oh, it's time to go. God will be like, no, it's not time to go. And then when God will be telling me, okay, you can go now, I'll be like, no, it's not time to go. So I'm doing this dance with God. I'm going back and forth, back and forth. And eventually, after consistently being dismissed, my complaints going unheard, unchecked. Don't get me wrong, my manager was great. She listened to me, she advocated for me, at least to me. And but it never went beyond that. So it's like I would tell my manager, but then I wouldn't see any necessarily change happen or anything happen. So I started becoming a bit more, I don't know what the right word is. I just started just doing things. Like if I had an idea, I just started doing it. I didn't really wait for approvals for it to be done because 9 times out of 10, I probably wasn't going to get the approval because obviously my manager would have to consult with certain people who were supposed to be in charge of certain, things, and we just wouldn't get any feedback. So I'm just like, I'm just gonna go and do it. Because at this point, I'm not getting any constructive feedback. I'm not getting any constructive criticism. I'm not getting any answers to anything I'm asking. I've been asking these questions since I started my job. I'm now 8 months in and I'm still don't have answers to things I asked 8 months ago when I started. So I just at this point, I'm just doing things now. When it comes to the website and everything, I'm just doing it. Right. And I'm trying to share what I'm doing as I'm going along, but I'm not really getting any feedback. No one's really coming back to me to say, yeah, that's great or anything like that. The feedback I'm getting is mainly from strangers, people who are coming into the church from seeing what I've been doing online. And they don't know necessarily it's me, but they're coming to tell me because I'm, working in doing certain jobs within the church, and I'm getting to meet these people as they're coming in, and they're saying, yeah, I found the church through the website, I found the church through this, I saw a flyer that you did, it was advertised in this Facebook group that I'm in, whatever. And I'm like, great. So only when those strangers started giving feedback to other people, that's when people started coming back to me now and saying, oh, thank you so much for what you're doing. I've been doing this for 8 months. Why are you telling me now? Bear in mind also, I'm still teaching on the Sundays. I'm still doing the Sunday school. I'm still doing the refreshments. I'm still doing all of those things, as well as I'm doing the other things as well. The social media stuff, as well as the activities that I run through the church. I'm still having to be present for those as well. But I just started saying, you know what? I'm going to manage my time how I see fit. I'm not doing it the way that I quote unquote was told to do it because it's not working. I'm not getting any feedback. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what the thoughts are. Only now that strangers are acknowledging my work, I'm actually getting any type of feedback. And I've only been invited to one meeting where they've asked me how I feel the job is going. But my colleague was in all the meetings. So she was always able to advocate for what she was doing or what she wanted to have done. She was always able to communicate. So there was a natural disadvantage from the very beginning because I don't have the same power she had. Doesn't mean that everything she said went through like this, but she had the power and the leverage to at least try and convince a majority to get what she wanted going. She had the legs to stand on to push for certain things to happen. I didn't until I just started doing whatever I wanted to do. And then it got the attention of people because they were like, oh, okay, she's just doing now. I'm like, yeah, I'm just doing because I've been asking and no one's saying nothing. So of course I'm just going to do. Because I need to do my job at the end of the day. And obviously, when I say I'm just doing, I'm not just doing off my own back or my own mind. I'm praying. It got to a point where I couldn't enter the church for work or for just Sunday service without serious prayer. And I'm not joking. I always advise you pray every day. Of course, we should be, if you haven't listened to my song, Daily Prayer, you can listen to that conversations link in the description box below. But daily prayer for me became daily warfare. I could not go into this church building without prayer because every time I entered that building, there was something negative coming my way. I don't think I went in a day in that place without being told something negative. Oh, it would be better if, oh, it would be good if, oh, it would be like this if, I think you should if. Oh, okay, you think all of these things. Okay, now you tell me how you think these things should happen. Give me an idea, give me an order of sequence. Help me understand. Don't just come and drop bombs on me or drop bombs on me through third parties and then expect me to just magically understand what you mean or how I'm supposed to improve certain things. So I just started dismissing what they said. I was like, I'm not listening to that advice. I'm not taking your advice. I'm sorry. I will not be rude. Obviously, when they tell me, I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, that's cool. And I'm just not going to go and do it. I'm not in a rude or egotistical way, but I have been asking you these things for months. You have been refused. I see you on Sunday, you don't communicate these to me. I ask you to your face. I ask you on WhatsApp, you don't say anything to me. But then you get other people to come and deliver your messages. I don't like that. I don't like that. I just don't. I just don't like that. I don't. I'm praying every day because I'm like, God, what am I doing here? Because I thought I was coming to do your works, but this doesn't feel like your works. This feels like a cluster of opinions, a cluster of egos, a cluster of wanting to do what looks good on the surface, but not really doing what's good for the soul, what's good for the spirit, what's good for the body. And I'm not here for it. I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. And the irony in me also not liking it and experiencing what I'm experiencing is when I'm teaching on Sundays, God is literally speaking through me, to me, and to some other people in the church as well, because of what they came and told me about what they received from those messages that I shared, that we're not on the right foot as a church. We're not. There is something seriously, seriously wrong about the way that we're doing things. We might think we love God, but what we're doing is not reflective. And it's not everyone, of course. This is just really just, like I said, there's always some people in the church. And it may not even be because some people, yes, they're just little devils. And some people, it's just that they've fallen into routine. And the thing is, when you're a Christian, comfort comes from God. It doesn't come from your way of doing things. And there was a particular way of things that people liked things being done. And I represented the opposite of that. That's just the truth. I'm young, I'm Black, I'm educated, I'm not a baby mother, I'm not married yet, don't have kids. I work hard, I'm creative, I sing. And that isn't what was championed once my pastor left. My pastor was the person who championed creativity. He was the person, him and his wife are the people that championed using your gifts. But when they left, so did all of those things, unfortunately. And now I was right in the thick of it because this job is now taking up all my free time. I'm not even really able to use my annual leave like that. Bear in mind, my annual leave is based on hours, not even on days. But I'm not even able to use the few hours. Like when I left, I had over 150 hours left to take. Just deep that. I had over 150 hours left to take, but I couldn't use it. I couldn't use my hours. So there were just so many things happening on a spiritual level. I didn't feel like I was being fed. On a just, job satisfactory level, I don't feel like I was satisfied at all. As much as I enjoyed certain elements of the role, for sure, I didn't enjoy being in the role because of everything that was working against me in the role. And like I said, I'm open to the constructive feedback and criticism. But the thing is, I'm just being criticized. There's no construction. But you're criticizing me for things that actually people outside of you are absolutely benefiting from. And when I say outside of you, I'm talking about that particular group of people that were just very set in their ways. But everybody outside of them were benefiting from it. But there's just this pot or this group that just didn't want the change, kept talking about the change, but doing nothing to implement the change. And that's not okay. And that is not what I signed up for at all. The joy is gone. I'm just now doing it because it's what I have to do and what I know to do. But the joy is gone. So there was one thing that I wanted to do before kind of it came to a point where I just knew it's definitely time to go. And that was to start a worship night. And I did it. And I didn't consult anyone. I just did it. I put it out there. I said, we're having a worship night every Tuesday. And I remember my colleague and some other people saying, who did you ask before you did that? I didn't ask anyone because I said, even though I'm disappointed at how everything is panning out, I'm disappointed in how I've been treated, I still have hope that God can come back into this place and he can penetrate the hearts of those that have become so hardened and set in their ways. And so the worship night was my way of saying, look, if there's any part of you that really wants to seek God, do his will, that wants to have a deepened relationship with him, come to this worship night. This is not about teaching. It's not about preaching. This is not about anything about other than you and God. If you want to dance around and jump around and sing, you can do that. If you want to sit down in your seat and just meditate as the songs play, you can do that. If you want to sit on the floor, you can do that. I don't care what you do. Just come and be with God. Seek him, please. So I hosted it the first night. It was a success. It was a success. And people loved it. The people who were there said, this is exactly what we need. We need this. So thank you for just doing it. And I said, well, don't thank me, thank the Holy Spirit, because he just gave me the confidence to say, you're just going to do it. You're not going to seek permission from anybody. You're going to do it. And I did it. The second one, also a success. The final straw for me that made me say, oh, now it's definitely time to go. And I had complete peace in that decision, was when I wanted to use 2 hours of my 150 hours plus of leave. But because the date I wanted to use fell on a day that we ran a youth club, I was strongly advised not to do it, not to take it. Bear in mind, all summer, I didn't travel, didn't go to no events, didn't perform. I think I did one performance. And I had to fight for that. I had to fight for that because, again, I wasn't allowed to take leave. But luckily for me, the people who were hosting the event wanted me to perform so much that they fought for me to be in the first half of the event so I could perform and then run back to work. But for this one was my thing. This was my event, part of my ministry, something that I'd worked so hard to try and bring back. And I tried so many times between May and September to find a date that didn't fall on a working day. But it didn't, because everybody's doing events now. Everybody's, hiring out venues for various things. So I couldn't find a date that just fell on a day that I could actually do that. I could be free the whole day. I couldn't, because remember, most of my days are being spent doing this job. And unfortunately, I couldn't get something which was affordable in a location that made sense. And on a day that I was absolutely free, I couldn't. And I tried. I was doing it with my mum. We were looking together, phoning up venues, calling up going back and back. When it reached September, and I said, I still have not been able to find somewhere that isn't going to cost me an arm and a leg to do it on a day and time that I can do, apart from this one church. And they only had this one date, which happened to fall on a day that we do a youth group. And I had to say, let's go and reserve that day, because it's the only date that was actually I can do. And it happens to fall on a day that I do the youth group. Let's see what timings they have. If they can do it maybe at a time that doesn't coincide with the youth group, I could still go to work, do the youth group, and then run over to my event. Oh my gosh. The drama that ensued from that, the disrespect that ensued from that. One, I was told that I risk losing my job or my contract not being renewed if I decide to take annual leave on that day. So I should highly reconsider it. Two, when I finally said, because they said, okay, if you want to go ahead and do that date, find a cover. I said, I will do my best to find a cover. One person said, I will do it, but only put me as a reserve, meaning they'll be there, but if somebody else can absolutely do it, then let them do it and take me off. So from my understanding, I always understood of what that person said was they can do it, but they also prefer to be a reserve. So if somebody else steps up and says they can do it, please let them do it. I'm not fighting to do it in that sense. That's how I understood it. So from my understanding, they were going to be there to cover. I said, please communicate with my colleague about that, because obviously I'm not going to be there now. I'm going to be doing my event. My colleague comes back and says, the person said they can't do it and they only want to be a reserve and we should look for somebody else. I'm like, how did you, I'm paraphrasing a little bit here. I'm like, how did you get that? So I went back to the original person. I said, is that what you said? They said, that's not what I said. So I said, so where are they getting this from? But because now my colleague had said what she said, the managers were like, well, if we can't find something to cover, we're not going to be able to do it. And this is not going to reflect well on you. So we highly suggest that you find somebody to replace you. So I said, you know what? My mum said she's happy to do it. In the worst case scenario, my mum's happy to do it. Please tell me why on the day of my event, when my mum should be with me, helping me get ready for the event, She goes all the way there and is stuck in a madness. There was so much traffic. It was just one of those days where the traffic was just, it took us like just to get to even the venue, which wasn't even far from where I live. It's supposed to be a 15, like a 10-15 minute drive maximum. It took half an hour. So, and then she still had another 30 minutes to go to get to where my church actually is. So it took my mum an hour plus to get to the church. Why, when she gets there, please, the person who originally agreed to do it was there. And my colleague didn't think necessary to let me know until my mum had already arrived there. Oh, and the reason she didn't say nothing, according to her, was because she wasn't sure he was going to stay. What? You mean the person arrives and you don't ask them, are you planning to stay for the duration? The moment he says yes, you message me to say, hey, by the way, your mum doesn't need to come anymore. To me, that's such a disrespect. Because I tell you now, if that happened to my colleague's mum, oh, I would still be hearing about it today. Even though I ain't at the church no more, I'd still be hearing about it today. But because it's my mum, I'm just supposed to be like, let bygones be bygones. It is what it is. So at that point, I said, oh, okay, I see. I know what time it is. I see what's going on here. But you're not going to get reaction out of me. You're not. I told my manager what happened. My mom addressed it with both of them. Well, not with both of them. She addressed it with them. I spoke to my colleague just to see how, what her response was. She was going to be apologetic, nothing. So I said, okay, no problem. That's absolutely fine. I handed in my resignation now. 3 days before that happened. And the reason I handed it in 3 days before it happened was because something in me just said, when I got that quote unquote threat, something in me just said, this is your final warning. Now, if I'm being honest with you, I don't think I was going to lose my job. I don't even think I think they were going to renew my contract. I don't even think they weren't going to. I do think they were, but I didn't want that. I didn't want that. And not only did I not want that, I knew now that this isn't how I'm going to be serving. Everything that I was experiencing, I was like, no, this is a power trip, if anything. I did this because I love Christ. I did this job because I love Christ and I wanted to serve him. And I thought that me being fully immersed, not fully immersed, but me doing this role in an official capacity, in an employed capacity, meant that it officiated what I was doing. But all it proved to me is that the church as a global body is definitely under attack. There are definitely levels in the church. This is a fact. And the church needs prayer. It needs serious prayer. It needs a few soldiers who are ready to go on the battle line and fight. But it really needs prayer and deliverance. And unfortunately, the choices of the few are affecting the experiences, the fellowship of the many. And that is sad to me. And I'm not saying that they can't get back on the right track. That is why I started the worship night, because that was my prayer. Even when I handed in my resignation, the reason I said, please continue it, don't abandon it because I've started it. Go on and do it. They tried to ask me, will you come back and can we at least just pay you just to come and host this? I said, no. Can we at least pay you to come and do the media? No. No. Because I've already seen everything for what it is now. And I have a deeper understanding that this is not where I'm supposed to be. God is so faithful. He turned what could have absolutely been a complete discouragement and disconnection for me from the faith into something that only built me up and made me more passionate to sit in front of you right now and talk to you the way I am and do this show and do my music and sing and perform and tell of the good news in all the different creative ways that I can. God used all of that. Even though I made a mistake, he didn't rub it in my face. It was hard. It was hard to get through. It's not like it was easy, but I had hope. But like I said, under no circumstance does that mean I'm staying out of church. Absolutely not. One of the things I started doing because I was amping up my prayer life and really needing to pray more as I was doing this role was I started a Bible study. And I love that Bible study. It's brilliant. It's one of also the other things that really helped keep me going through it all. And not only that, I did my event. It was a sold out event, so successful, brilliant event. The opportunities that came from the back of that event, insane. Insane. And I just kept thinking to myself, if I didn't do that event, I don't know what the rest of my year would have looked like after leaving that job. But me doing that event meant that for the last quarter of 2023, I was booked and busy. I was in rehearsal after rehearsal, performance after performance, child. And I was having a good old time doing it all as well. And it made me realize I will not make that kind of mistake again. Mm-mm. Music is my ministry. That's my gift. That's what God has given me. There's a reason why I've written all the songs I've written. I've written all the stories I've written. Because when I look back at the journey that's brought me to this point, this was always what I was going to do. But now, the beauty in it now is I'm doing it for the glory of the Lord, and I'm not doing it alone. I'm not doing it alone. And so now even my family have a newfound appreciation for my music, because now they understand that, you know what, you were doing the Lord's work. You were ministering. You don't realize how many people I speak to, how many people I meet online in real life, questioning me about my music. Why am I doing gospel? Why not just sing airy fairy songs that are good, but that will put you in a better position to succeed? What success looks in the eyes of the many. I'm not looking for that kind of success. I'm looking for the success that only God can give. I'm looking for the success that only God can provide. I'm not staying away from church. I'm not staying away from fellowship. I'm not staying away from the community, the body. No way. I know when I find a new church, I will, it's just going to feel right. I want to be in it. And I'm still going to be doing, hopefully, a lot of the similar things I was doing in my church before, but just maybe not in the capacity that I was doing it before. Or maybe this time I'll actually get to use my gifts in the church. Oh, wouldn't that be a treat? I won't have to beg for it and plead for it. I'll actually be given opportunities to use my gifts in the church, which I would love to do. Why not? But I've learned that wherever I go, whatever I do, God first. Wherever I go, whatever I do, pray first. Whatever I do, wherever I go, wait on the Lord. This is not the same territory as before. I'm in new territory. This isn't the same life I was living when I was not saved, or when I was baptized but still dipping my foot in and out. This is a life that desires to be sanctified, holy, righteous in the eyes of the Lord. And therefore, that means that comes with a different set of challenges, a different viewpoint, though, a different perspective. But it comes also with an abundant joy, peace, love, forgiveness, understanding, compassion, grace, patience. Oh, comes with a lot. Comes with so many good things that I never received from the world or from anybody. I only ever received when I came to Christ. And I love that. I love it here. I wouldn't trade it for the world. I wouldn't do anything else for the world. This right here is where I'm supposed to be, what I'm supposed to be doing, and I love it. I love it. I really do. And I've never enjoyed something in my life as much as I do doing the things I do now for God. It's one of those things where until you experience it, it just might seem like, okay, whatever. And so for me, leaving my church was recognizing that if I'm not careful, I'm going to continue to lose more time. I'm going to be thrown out of my purpose. And I'm going to lose my position. And those things are just far too precious to me to lose. Losing my time? No, I can't waste any more time doing things that don't please the kingdom, that do not please God, that do not feed into that do not edify the body, that do not build up the church, that does not build up believers, that does not bring in new believers. I cannot afford to lose my purpose. That is literally why I was born, is why I'm here, is why I'm alive at this time. If I lose that, if I can't do that and exercise that, then why am I living? It doesn't make sense. I'm here for a purpose. I've got to fulfill that purpose. And I wasn't able to do that there. And I definitely don't want to lose my position. I don't want to fall out of line with God because of that experience. I don't want to grow bitter and angry and resentful and turn my back on God. I don't want to ever get to that point. Never, never, ever. God forbid. So I knew at that point, when that conviction was on me like this, I knew it's time to go. Because if I don't go now, I've made a choice. So my advice to anybody wanting to work in the church, I'm not discouraging you from doing it. This is just my experience. And it's very specific to what I was already going through and what God was preparing me for and the choices I made, right? So I wouldn't discourage it, but I'm not necessarily going to encourage it either. What I would say is seek advice. First from Him, read your word to make sure you're hearing from Him. Make sure you're fostering that time to actually hear from Him. Talk to people who have worked in churches. Talk to them. Pray with somebody you trust as well. Have someone pray with you, pray for you. Ask God to reveal to you before you accept that role. Don't go in there blindly thinking you're just going to go in there and treat this like your normal 9 to 5. This, you are entering spiritual territory because you are doing what the enemy doesn't want you to do. You are doing what society doesn't want you to do. You're doing what even those little devils in the church don't want you to do. So you need to be spiritually armed and prepared to go in and do that work and to do it well, faithfully, diligently. And don't get me wrong, there are people that experience those challenges, but they still stay, but that's because that's their calling. That's because that's their purpose. That's God ordained. So that's all from me, guys. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share as well. I think it's important as Christians, we are open and honest about our experiences and our faith walk. And I'm hoping that by me doing what I'm doing, I'm fostering that and encouraging that. So yeah, this is my story. This is why I left my church, but it doesn't mean I've left church. I'm still going to church. I'm still looking for a home, and I'm praying about it. And I hope that you would pray for me too, actually, so that I could find one. But yeah, stay tuned for more videos like this. Also stay tuned for my new series and segment here on the channel, which I hope you guys will enjoy. But until next time, guys, bye.